And we are live. Welcome, welcome to Omi's production studio. And we are also going to be broadcasting live from Blog Talk channel under Oracle Divination Network. Now, there was to be a scheduling of the science class today, which has been rescheduled for tomorrow. This is an urgency that I bring this particular topic on because I had been teaching on the pre-priesthood for devotees and EWALs. Now, I want to also say that I am Kemetic. I am also the teaching of MAAT teaching. As you will read my advertisement on Blog Talk under the Oracle Divination Network, I represent MAAT. And MAAT is the first teaching that I had initially. I came to know MAAT through teaching with the Asar Arset, and all of my foundation was of MAAT. And believe it or not, my book that was with Journey of the Class Agent for about Maya was revealed in those poems that were written. So that's my foundation. If you read my advertisement on my Blog Talk channel on Oracle Divination Network, you will see the commitment that I have with Maya. However, it turned I went to the teaching with the Yoruba, which was slightly different. It didn't have the foundation that Maya had with the books and the material that you could refer to. Ifa was a bit where you had to explore looking for the materials. They only had the divination book. However, I strongly aspire to Maya teaching and say that my priesthood started with the Maya teaching. And with Rana Nefer being there to give his direction on the books that I had talked to you about, Meta Nectar 1 and 2, and the Tone Tree of Life. So I had my foundation in Maya. So it's only important that I would want to go back to my first foundation of the Kemetic teaching. The Kemetic teaching in my life meant that I was a Maya representative. So on my page, you will see the full history of the Maya teaching. And I certainly believe for you women who are interested in understanding the oracle readings are also presented in the Kemetic teaching. So I want to say that Queen Afua first came into my life, first of all. And I started with the sacred women in Queen Afua. I actually created, if you can see that, Queen Afua's book, very, very popular book. I was in a following of Queen Afua's and dealing with sacred women at my home to learn about Queen Afua's philosophy. Queen Afua had actually come to Dallas, and a couple of her followers there who conducted classes. And I started a class called the Sacred Women's Womb, the Salt Eaters, that was under king.com. And I think it's still out there. And we started with the women who were healers, focusing in on healing your womb. And this is for women right now that would like to understand, how do I start a path in learning about the Kemetic lifestyle? You can start with Queen Afua's book. You can start with her book, and you don't have to change your religion. You can still be Islamic. You can still be Yoruba and still partake of the sacred womb healing. If you are a healer, you need something like this that will help guide you and show you that women can be committed to a life of Kemetic lifestyle. The 142 confessions from the Kemetic lifestyle. They taught us about the 42, but I then learned that there was 142. In all of my poems, after meditating, all these things start coming out about the discovery of the 142 negative confessions instead of the 42. There were so many things that I gained through the knowledge of going into a subliminal trance that I didn't know about Kemetic that came out through my meditation. So, for those who are still on the path to finding a way of life, and I don't say I'm tying you to religion because I want you to come out of religion. I want you to come away from that and begin to look for a way of life that you can perpetuate in your morning doings, with your prayers, in your evening goings when you lay down to rest, and the way you prostrate yourself, the way you dedicate your prayers. All of these things are necessary, ladies and gentlemen. And if you're on a path for priesthood training, this is not the priesthood training. Once again, priesthood training for those of you who are interested in the Kemetic lifestyle. It's a beautiful lifestyle. And the readings that I actually partook of really helped me to understand. I think I better put my little plugs on. You know, I get so carried away that I don't put my ears on, and without my ears, you can't hear me. Hold tight. Okay, now we've got our ears on. I want to make sure that. Okay, now you'll be able to hear me. Now we're on YouTube, and we're going to try to get my blog talk on at the same time. And ladies and gentlemen, bear with me. Sometimes when you're not a technician and you have to set up the boards yourself, it is a little time consuming. So I apologize in between having to set these boards up and to get you involved. Now, we're going to see if we can do something here. Well, I tell you what, we're just going to have to do another show. And because it is a real time consuming thing. And I am talking about the Kemetic teaching. And the topic is I too sing Kemetic for MAAT teaching. Yes, I do. And I tell everyone that I was a Kemetic before I ever was involved in the Yoruba teaching. The Yoruba people in my group actually are far away from me, and some of them have actually gone on to other things. So I have to have someone to worship with and to perpetuate this Kemetic teaching. So I am finding myself being gravitated back to the Kemetic teaching to study on my own or to find those groups out there that are perpetuating Kemetic way of life. Now, I say that you can still be in your own traditional religion because this is a way of life. This is not a religion. So you can always connect this to your existing religion if you're not feeling fulfilled, you're not feeling fulfilled within your teachings that you're in right now. You might be in Islamic, but you might need to have more connection to Africa. You might need to be connected to the way of life of the Kemetic lifestyle. You might need to sit with people that are from a Asara set who also magnifies and perpetuate the Kemetic way of life. Now, on my advertisement, if you go out to my blog talk, it's a whole written description of what Kemetic is and the lifestyle of Kemetic. So we have to understand that our way of life is different from Christianity. And Christians have to understand they have to be more connected to the African diaspora and understanding the way that our ancient ancestors lived. We're looking for a better way of living. And that's all religion does. It gives you a better way of living. But you can't very well have a better way of living if you have no standard that you're lifting up. You must lift up a standard. And when you lift that standard up, you must understand that that standard is being lifted up so that you will have a way of life. How will you know how to pray, how to meditate, and how to give adoration to God unless you have a path? And the Kemetic lifestyle gives you a path. Now, I don't know if most of you know very much about Queen Afua, but her whole life has been laid down in a path that women can follow. The sacred womb, keeping the womb clean and understanding that all issues come out of the womb. I first had that studies with a group of women. We met religiously in my home once a week for a meal and a discussion. These were women who were having hysterectomies and who wanted to hold on to their wound, and they had a story to tell. It was similar to the Mississippi appendectomy that we researched that was going on right there in Mississippi, where women were being forced to have their wounds completely taken out. And I'm not talking about a partial hysterectomy, but a complete hysterectomy. So we started out on that journey to find those women, to exonerate those women, and to support those women to get a second opinion about having their wounds removed. Now, that's for another whole story. What I want to talk to you about is the lifestyle of the Kemetic. The lifestyle of the Kemetic is a rich lifestyle, and there are rituals and routine and connections to the ancestors and altar work as well. You don't worship at your altar, you do altar work and you commune with your ancestors. So don't let anybody say, well, you are worshiping dead people or you exonerating people who are not alive. Our ancestors are deeply alive and their cosmic record resides within us. That's what makes them alive. So we are still connected to our ancestors and we still have access to their thought process, their lifestyle, way of life, and their energies we can tap into through their melanin. Yes, people, we can tap into their melanin, and their melanin strengthens us, and we call them back to the circle of life so that they can unite themselves with us as we fight this battle down here in the belly of the well. We must understand that Kemetic lifestyle is still over in Egypt. And if anyone wants to be raised up, they could easily go to Egypt to be raised up. But you can be raised up right here in your own backyard here in the United States and North America. The Kemetic lifestyle is alive and well. And for you teachers out there, that is how I came up on the Kemetic. I ran into quite a few educated teachers who were connected and involved with the Kemetic lifestyle and the way of life. And they perpetuated that through their teaching. And I like to reunite myself back to the Kemetic way of life. And sometimes you can be lost out here by yourself in one particular faith where there is no one to fellowship with you. But there are plenty of people that are out there who noticed that my billboards were talking about Kemetic and wanted me to be able to connect with them. I must connect with them. They are my people. They're the first foundational teaching that I received. Now, I am not at liberty to say that we only supposed to worship exclusively to one faith. No, I do not preach that. I've often told you if you found faith in the Buddhist religion, then worship with them. I have spent time worshiping with my friends in the Buddhist religion when I couldn't find anything called Ifa or Kemetic. But now that I know that there is enough sisters and brothers out here that are perpetuating the Kemetic lifestyle and that are growing and doing things, I want to set up my fellowship with them. I want to reconnect with them and reintroduce myself to the teachings because I know that all of it works together for good for them that love the Lord. And really, in reality, we are all Kemetics, believe it or not. When the teachings went down in Africa and in Egypt, the first teachings were the teachings of the Kemetic to raise up a brother or sister in the faith of Kemetic. And we know that our Egyptologists started out with the Kemetic teaching and they perpetuated that, and they actually took over and initiated priests and priestesses. And the best thing that we could do in our effort to make sure that our family members are coming to know themselves through the teachings of the Kemetic lifestyle. We need we need the oracles of the Kemetic lifestyle now more than ever before. And we need the 144 negative confessions to be repeated on a daily basis, because we are falling away from a lifestyle and we have lost our way. And it's too easy out here to lose your way. And it's to your benefit to connect with a group of people that are perpetuating living the lifestyle and not going against 142 negative confession, and having a MAAT lifestyle, reciprocity, truth and reciprocity, and understanding that with our path and way of life, we can be a better people. And a lot of us have not even realized that. Let me take you to my little shelf with my Maya emblems and teachings, so that you will see that I have an altar erected to the Maya teaching. And here you will see the King Tut. And this is my little exhibit that I have here on my shelf. If you can see that, Maya is right up front here. Can you see Maya? Oh, I think I have it upside down. Or do I? Can you see Maya? Yeah, there's Maya. And in the back, there is King Tut. And the pyramid there. Mayat has her hands positioned, and King Tut has his staff. And as I indicated to you earlier, that Mayat teaching and the Kemetic teaching is very, very powerful. And the readings that I've had for my own personal use had brought me into the faith of the Kemetic, because I was able, I don't know what my thing is doing, I was able to get a reading that was so on time and so timely that it convinced me right there, then and there, to become Kemetic, because the reading was so prolific and so real and so to the point that it actually brought me into harmony with myself, and realizing that Kemetic can be a source for leading me into all truths. Now, ladies and gentlemen, I want to say, I don't know why my screen is doing this. Okay. I want to say that it is very vital that we take some time to get to know the Kemetic faith, because it is definitely real. And I don't know what it's doing here. It is definitely real. And we must acknowledge that all of this comes out of Egypt. And the Kemetic teaching is right there in Africa. And as we begin to know more about our heritage, we understand that this Kemetic teaching is a way of life. And once you get a way of life, you can begin to strike out against things that are not right in your life, or people or institutions that are overtaking you. But it's very vital that you should understand that Kemetic teaching should be a way of life for all Africans. And any African can say that that's the Hotep teaching. I'm not a part of that. They really need to really regroup and reevaluate themselves, because it's not a Hotep teaching. It is a teaching that will provide you with the color of the day, a day of the week. Now I'm going to bring my Kemetic books over to you. And I guess one would say that I've been Kemetic all along, because whatever books you eat from and the source that you draw from, that's who you are. Even though I might have been uh, serenaded by Yoruba and celebrated by Yoruba, but in my heart, I was Kemetic, believe it or not. And the teachings that I got were strictly from these books for the last, what, 20 years now. Now, as you see, these books actually go into bringing out the actual deities. And here you will find Heru. Can you see Heru? Heru and the all-seeing eye. Let's see if I have any more. Okay. Okay. Here is a saw. Can you see that? And the traditional king of the Kemet. And this is Tahuti. The Tahuti measuring the lifespan of a person, Tahuti. Sort of like Oromala. Can you see Tahuti? And he has his staff there. Tahuti, okay, weighs the heart against the feather of MAAT. And the ancient Kemetic Tahuti governs the class of professionals known as scribes. Did I give you a star already? Okay. And here's Sector. Sector is the priest performing the opening of the mouth and the rituals for the dedication. And Sector represents the death and decay phase of life, the cycle of all things. Can you see him? And here is MAAT. Can you see MAAT? MAAT embodies the doctrine of divinity, law, and order. Here we see a woman of the Kemetic making an offering of commitment, of communication, commitments to the lives of the truth, will of the person being weighed against Mayas, the double halls of truth. Can you see that? Here's Heteruti. Can you see Heteruti? Heteruti, it governs the military. Here we see a regiment of Kemetic troops marching. Heru is a form of let's see here. Heruti is known for his passion for hard work. He's a hard worker. And I talked about these in my teachings. You can go back in my blog talk teachings, and I went through each one of these to teach about them. And Heru, here's Heru. Heru corresponds to the noble, righteous, clear sight, traditional kings of the ancient Kemetic. Here we have the king of Kemetic dressing in the stately royal garment. Heru governs all supervisory managerial position. Here we see the man at hard work under the decision of a supervisor. Heru is a supervisor. He governs all positions of leadership. Here we see a chief scribe of Kemetic, the manager. And Heteru, 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 two priestesses of Heteru invokes her power with the sceptrum, the cloak, and the mental sweet smelling flowers. Heteru finds much pleasure in going to great lengths to engage the physical, abdominal, and social etiquette. The cat is an animal sacred to Heteru, a musical a symbol of young women and girls, young women dancing, as we can see. Here is Scepter. Scepter. The crocodile was the form of Sebek, assumed as a guardian of the eastern entrance along with the Nile River, the Kemetic, ancient Egyptian. The baboon is the form of Seper, assumed as the intuition of Heteru, divine wisdom and facilitator. Sebek is an epitome inspecting the body to make sure that it will remain as incomparable as Asa. Sebet is an amateur inspecting the scales and the balances at weighing of the heart against MAAT, featured in the judgment scene. Here's Arset. Arset gives birth to him who is the rightful successor to the king of Asa. Here we see Queen Mother, mother of the heir of the throne of Kemetic, making offerings, devoting her persons to being the living embodiment of the virtues of Aset. Aset virtues are best expressed through family life. Here we have family in Kemet spending time together. Aset and her sister Nebet Het, being devoted to the resurrection of the mummified Asa. It was thought that the meditation of the woman governing Aset, that the cultivation of the wild, the grasses into current was discovered. And what is that? How the hell you do that? How did you do that? Oh boy. All right. Now, that was just to give you a little idea, ladies and gentlemen, about looking at, why is this going up like that? Let me see. Doing that. Okay. All right, here we go. We're back. All right. I wanted to show you that, and that came out of the Meta Nectar 2 book. So you can go out and get a copy of that. Okay. Now, when I did my meditation, I depended on these books heavily. And I wanted to show you that you can take these emblems into meditation with you. and they will bring out the best in these various different deities in your meditation. And there's songs to go with this. Let's see. There are songs that go with each one of these particular deities. And you have a color of the day, and then you also have uh, the songs and the dances that go with it, and the color of the day. So they're also scribed for each one of your deities. And I can't figure out where I had the other pages at. Now, if you sit with these books, there's so much that Rana Nefer is bringing out in these books that will begin to help you to understand your abman and to also understand your personality and do your own readings. Because in the MAAT teaching, let me go here and see. The Medunetter fundamental principles will actually show you the various different preliminary sections of the Amen, the Asar, the Tahuti, Sebek, Sector, Mayat, Hetaruti, Haru, Hetaru, Sebek, Asar, Geb, Amen, Asar, Tahuti, Sector. It will actually show you how to read these different signs. It will show you your number, your color, the time of the year, the esoteric herbalism, the spiritual, the mundane, the biological correspondence, and the spiritual keynotes, the spiritual counsel, and biological correspondence. And these readings are lined up and laid out for you. And they are so exact and to the point that when someone does a reading for you with the Kemetic cards, get yourself a set of Kemetic cards and you can begin to do your own readings, and you can begin to read for your families. And as I told you, this should be the first group of people that you should be working with is your family. Now, here's a page that I wanted to show you. This has the meta netter on there of all of the emblems. Let's start on this page here. This is the Sesh Meter. Okay, as you can see, I don't know if you can see those, but it has all of the symbols on there. Okay, now these are the symbols that I had told you that you want to purchase this book and you want to make up cards for each one of these symbols. As you go into your meditation, you aspire to take these into meditation with you, the areas that you feel the weakest in, after you read their description, of course. And then when you take them into your meditation, you begin to master those areas of weaknesses. Okay, I think you get the picture. Now, these books are quite expensive. I bought mine many, many years ago, over 20 years ago. So I don't know what the cost of them are now, but you definitely need to have those books, and also get a copy of Sacred Women by Queen Afua. Can you see that? These books are detrimental for your Bible. They become your Bible. And I'm not talking about King James Bible. I'm talking about, have you read the book, The Hosea Today? That's another book. Have you read every word that they have to say? I mean, not from one prophet, nor from one preacher, but have you sat down to let the nectar teach you? Now let this mind of the nectar be within you. So no man out there will ever try to offend you. You must read line upon line, precept upon precept, until you become free. Because these books will certainly free you and give you the desires of mastering yourself. The ab man must master himself. You cannot learn about God until you get to know yourself. You have too many people out here saying they know God when they don't know themselves. And we don't know ourselves fully. We have not even introduced ourselves to ourselves. And every day we're getting to know a little bit more about ourselves. And as we get to know more about ourselves, we get to know who God is. And then that's when we get to know the mind of God. Now, I've told you that there are Elohims that we look at as angels and Orishas. And these particular uh, deities are the essence of God. These are not gods that we worship. We are a monotheistic group of people that worship only one God. God has a triad of himself. Uh, Olodumare, Ori, and then Elede. But he is really the one God with many positions and essence. And we really have to get in tune to understand if we're getting ready for the priesthood, we have got to have a pre-trial, learning things that are basic. These classes are pretty in depth. And when you come in to know that you want to become a priest, and you want to go the route of the Kemetic, then you definitely have to spend time learning the basic vocabulary, learning the basic lifestyle. And there's groups that are online that can introduce you to the Kemetic lifestyle through engaging yourselves in learning the diet. Most of all these particular African traditional religions have a way of life and a diet that has to be adhered to. The Kemetic is very strict in their diet and what you should eat. I found that if I was rather loose in a lot of things that pertain to your personal development, they were more so in being that particular practitioner that was helping others. But there were so many people I saw in the Ifa faith that were helping others when they really needed to help themselves first. And I'm a prime believer you cannot help anyone else until you manage yourself. So I want to say, for the benefit of the record, Kemetic might be the way to start when you first start out, because you have got to master yourself and master those inadequate things that you don't like about yourself. You've got to spend more time with yourself. Then you'll actually be spending time with God. Because remember, God cohabitates with you. And you cannot begin to extend yourself out into the community to heal other people when you still have some healing to do. And a number of us who decide to go into the practice of being an actual priestess, some of us know in advance that we're healers and that we have the capability of having empathy for others and healing others. But that is long before we've already spent time with ourselves. And most of the Kemetic teaching will assume that you have spent that time with yourself to master yourself. And this is what these books will do. They will help you master yourself and master your lifestyle. And you're always perpetuating mastery. So you never get finished being a student. So I say, take book number one, for example, The Great Oracles of Tahuti and the Egyptology System and the Spiritual Contribution. You need to know the Egyptology of our people. Don't let anybody tell you that you're Aborigines, They don't have a plan or teaching for you for that. Yes, you're Aborigine, but you're also Kemetic too. There is a teaching for you. There's a Bible for you in the Kemetic. I didn't find one that was written in the Aborigines as the path that we should take or the lifestyle. So I just agreed that we were Aborigines and went on and said, let me pick up my Metanetter 1 and 2 because it is a manual for a way of life that I am supposed to look at my life every day, that I am supposed to perpetuate life. And if you don't know how to perpetuate life, you'll live any old kind of life and people will be able to bring you any old kind of stuff and you'll accept it. But when you've been taught well and have a path and a way of life, you can pick up the Egyptology path in the Kemetic lifestyle to know that there are 142 negative confessions that you must repeat every day. I have not offended my brother. I have not taken advantage of my sister. I have not been rude to my mother. All of these negative confessions that you confess will give you a way of life. Not only that, there are so many teachings that you must keep the abdomen clean and you must be able to go from the basic the animalistic stage, which is on the tree of life, the tome tree of life, that you would climb up the ladder to the spiritual head, which is where your indigo is, and your chakra leads you right to the indigo. This is when you become fully spiritual and you are one with God. But how can you do that when you're still stuck in the reptilian stage and the animalistic stage and you're doing things for survival and you're functioning like you are fighting and you're an animal in a cage and you still don't understand why your lower man is ruling over your spiritual man. And you must understand that the lower man is in has enmity with the spiritual man. They're always fighting, and the lower man is getting the best of you by forcing you and telling you what he wants to do, his eating habit. He might be all out of control, eating flesh and consuming prefab foods that are non-living food, and it may be telling you, "I want that. I got to have that," and you're at war with your lower extremities, with your beastology ways, instead of climbing to the spiritual ladder of that third eye, where your eye is open and you're able to live by the primordial spiritual lifestyle of the one and the only one that will give you the third eye that can be open. And once your third eye is open and you come in tune with your spiritual self, you just don't do those things that the flesh used to do. And you won't let the flesh carry you into sin like it used to. And no matter how it riles up at you and cries out to you, you would beat down the flesh. You would put it up under subjection. You put it in control and say, no, you don't have control. I have control over this ad man. I am taking control and I know what's right for the ad man. But you cannot begin to let this flesh take control. You must always remember that your head is in control, and that's Ori. And if you have any success, make sure you give it to your head for getting you there, because that is what is in rulership. We have to understand that women need social groups to come and groom themselves, to better themselves. Take up a study with Queen Afua. She gives you a foundation. And in her book, she has tons of foundation. And I use this book like a manual. And I find that Queen Afua gave me so much enlightenment. Now, here's the 42 laws of the Maya. Now, I went on to discover that there are 142. Can you see those? 42 laws of Maya. I'm sure you see that. Queen Afua has put this in her book so that you can begin to look at what are the 42 negative confession. What must I confess every day? Now, Queen Afua has gracefully put her book together, which mine is tearing up now because I've used it so much. She has actually mixed the Kemetic. And here you see her Kemetic drawing where she's actually mixed the Kemetic right in with her teaching. And you cannot miss over this Kemetic teaching because this is where we should start. This was at a time when we had our greatness. Now everybody wants to move us away from that. Now, here is Shu and Nut as they have the drawing there. You probably have seen that drawing somewhere before. Have you? It actually shows you that, oh boy, it actually shows you that Nut has actually come into the picture and Shu, the air. Can you see that? Okay. Queen Afua does a wonderful, wonderful job of putting her books together. And there's some other books out there that you definitely need to check on because I know she has another book. I don't have it. Here's a gateway to the sacred womb. Can you see that? The gateway to the sacred womb. And in her books, you will find that there are openings to get you involved in teachings of, okay, sorry about that. There are ways to get you involved in the Kemetic teaching. And you can go online, and here is an altar that was set up. And you might not be able to set this up just yet. This is from her putting this all together in her altar. And I just wanted you to see that when she put her work together, it was truly, truly a magnificent place to start for somebody that's going into Kemetic teaching. She actually has groups that start and other facilitators that start her group. And you might want to start right there with the spirit of the word of the womb. And in starting with the spirit of the womb, it will give you an opportunity to better yourself as a woman. Now, here is a picture of her groups that are meeting. And as I said, they're meeting across the country. They're all there together in white. And these are her teachings. And I understand that her husband is also in the field of teaching, and he has been teaching about Kemetic teaching. And we're going to go and listen to one of his videotapes. And I want to thank you so much for this segment of time with you to talk about Kemetic teaching. And just as I said, I too sing Kemetic teaching and the MAAT teaching of MAAT. If you go and read my blog talk radio station, you'll see right there that I aspire to Kemetic teaching. It was my foundational teaching and my school of thought that I started with when I very branched out into teaching of the African way of life. I started with the Kemetic, not with Ifa. Ifa came later on. And Ifa is basically a way of life also that I aspire to, but I mostly lean towards the Kemetic. And all of my teachings on Blog Talk were addressing you to the Kemetic. If you go back and listen to them, you'll see. So I am looking for a study group to venture out and connect with so I can do more Kemetic work. And for those of you who would like to be Kemetic priestesses, there are tons of trainings online and there are tons of network that you can network with. And for you women, definitely get connected to Queen Afua's teaching. Thank you. Hello? Yes, ladies and gentlemen, I want to say for the record that the Kemetic lifestyle is a beautiful way of life. And I think that as we as Africans get to know ourselves, don't get stuck in the Aborigines, indigenous people. There is no path for us there. Our brothers and sisters who were supposed to be the indigenous Indian people have not shared with us and have not invited us to their table to come and sup with them and to know of their ways. So just to be indigenous does not give you any way of life. Yes, we fought with them and they cohabitated with us, but they also offered us up as slaves, and they took us in as slaves, and they refused to give us our lot in this land. I do believe that we're going to have to leave this land in order to go over to Africa to connect with our indigenous people and our Kemetic people. We are definitely going to have to go over to that particular area if we are going to find ourselves engulfed in our own tradition, and that is the Kemetic way of life. And most of us know that this is the calling of our people to get more Kemetically inclined, and that is what my desire is going to be, to spend more time fellowshipping with more Kemetic lifestyle, uh, and more and connecting to those people who are perpetuating the Kemetic lifestyle. So I want to say for the record, yes, I am Kemetic. Someone asked me, and I wanted to put this videotape out to let them know that I am Kemetic. I was Kemetic first. I had my very first reading under the Kemetic way of life, and it was an excellent reading, which led me more to study into the Kemetic way of life. I understand the laws of MAAT, and I have them written right out on my billboard on my blog talk radio show for you to see. And the MAAT is actually holding the feather and the scepter, where she's measuring the hearts of many. So yes, I have aspired to Kemetic for the predominant greater part of my life, and will continue to. Now, when I do see my brothers and sisters in the Ifa faith, I fellowship with them. However, we have no studies going on. We have no ongoing studies. And I must be a student and have ongoing studies. And that's why I stay with the Kemetic teaching, because they're always influencing my heart to another lesson, to another teaching, and to advancing myself. And for those of you who want to be a for those of you who want to be a part of a study group, just let me know. I have tons of manuscripts out on my YouTube channel of the teachings of the Kemetic way of life. And I aspire to those, and I have brought them into my home. And as I indicated to you and showed you some of my Kemetic teachings here, you probably see the Kemetic statue, the pyramid. And what did I do with the other picture? Okay, I brought it over here. Okay, King Tut. As you can see King Tut there. And it's very vital that you should go and get these teachings, ladies and gentlemen, because the Kemetic way of life is a way that we can change our societies. We can come back into richness again. We can come back into royalty again, because our ancestors were truly a rich culture. We don't have a heritage, but we have a world history. So when you learn world history, you're learning about yourself. You don't need to say African history, because we had a world history of the Kemetic teaching, and it stems all the way from King Tut to looking at the story of Asara Set. All of this is ours and it belongs to us. And isn't it grand that we can have a lesson from the Ifa faith that will mend our broken heart, and also go to the Kemetic, because the Kemetic is now alive and well. And I will behoove you to jump on board, to be a part of the teaching, so that your children have a way of life, and you can teach your children about their ancestors who prevail. and who prevailed at war and who prevailed in their lifestyle. They invented window panes, toilet stool seats. They had castles and houses above ground and houses below ground. And we also know that King Tut was one of the fierce leaders of all. And then we had Hatshepsut, who also were the king queen beard, who was a male female king and queen. We have Queen Nzinga, who I do, Queen Nzinga, the one that they call Zinga, and Queen Nzinga, the work that she done to fight to prevent her people from going into slavery. We have a great history that we cannot ignore. Look at how they're changing Egypt. They're going and they're whitewashing the pictures on the wall from being black to being jaded and being white. But we must do something to stop this invasion of our property. This is our property there in Egypt. We have access to it. Some of us, like myself, have never been to Egypt, have never laid eyes on our grand Timbuktu University. Some of us have not even seen the royalty of Egypt. Egypt is ours, and we must possess it for ourselves. We must go and talk to our brothers and sisters about becoming Kemetic. Pick up the books that I've told you to pick up. These are the great books that I study from. I pay homage to the knowledge that I have from these great books. It is these great books where I got my knowledge from. It is these great books where I got my knowledge from, ladies and gentlemen. The tree of life, which I rely on for my toll meditation. I don't do just any meditation, but I do the toll meditation only because it is not using uh, subliminal measures on me, and it's teaching me how not to let outsiders come into my being. Now, here and once again is the sacred womb. This book was valuable and still valuable to me. When I found out about Queen Afua, I then began to want to start a group of my own, and I started the Sacred Salt Eaters, and we fellowshiped in my house to talk about Kemetic lifestyle and what we must do to keep our wounds in place. And I patterned all of my teaching from Queen Nzinga, her path and her way. You must understand, for someone to ask me, are you part of the Kemetic? I saw the Kemetic lifestyle in me. It's not anything that I wanted to hide or to keep a secret. It's always been in me. And I want you to know that I am not ashamed of the Kemetic teaching. I'm unapologetically Kemetic, teaching to the fullest of the Kemetic lifestyle. And I know that Ifa has a place in my life, but it is not the place with a path to it, only one for healing and answering oracles. But I must have a way of life. So I aspire to the Kemetic teaching, and I've been aspired to it for over 20 years in my life. And that is why I'm strong in my convictions. I'm strong in my philosophy because I have put my hope in the Kemetic teaching. And not only just the 42 negative confession, but the 142 negative confession. And I want you to know, when you start on this path, you're going to run up on Asar or Set. You're going to run up on Ifa teaching. You're going to run up on Santeria, Icon. But in all of your royalties, look at those dynasties that have been resilient and who have persisted from eons, that you can look back on as a foundation. None other foundation has been any grander than your Kemetic teaching. It has a philosophy that surpasses all understanding, with kingmanship and queenship, where they ruled in duality, not ruling with just a man, but a female and a man. Everything must be done in duality, is the teaching of the Kemetic. The Kemetic way of life is the way that they have taught Africans to go. We can heal ourselves and turn things around in our lives overnight if we incorporate the Kemetic lifestyle and the way of doing things and understanding if it was good enough for our ancestors and it caused our ancestors to magnify and master everything they put their hands to. Do you realize how long they were in rulership? Longer than any traditional nation, longer than any Caucasian organization. And they were in rulership and they had already succeeded the test of time to bring about the backpacks for young children, to bring about the window panes, the utensils in the kitchen. All of these things were discovered while up under the rulership of the Egyptologists. And I am a student of the Egyptologist, Dr. Carruthers and his cousin, Dr. Hillary. I am aspired to these two individuals who taught us right there at the University of East Chicago, the University of Eastern Chicago, I think that's what they call it. And in their institute that they have, their Kemetic, that's where I got my first foundation and first taste of understanding Kemetic. And going there to that institution with all of the edifice set up like the Kemetic life of Egypt is a place that you can go right here in the United States, the Kemetic Institute, right there in Chicago. You have to understand that if you're going to be a scholar, you have to know what's rightfully yours. You have to claim your ancestral-ship and claim all of your findings from the Kemetic life. It's ours. It belongs to us. Why would we abandon that when so many people are trying to whitewash it to make it white and to take it as their own? Take back your Kemetic Institute. Take back your Kemetic training. Take back the walls of Timbuktu and Hatshepsut and Queen Tut, Queen Nzinga. Take all of that back. It's ours. And it will help us to be a better people. It will show us how to set a path for our life. It will open up doors for us. We are forevermore grateful to our great heritage and the fact that we are taking trips there and we have Auschwitz Kwesi, a friend of mine who's taking people on tours there to learn more about the Kemetic lifestyle, keeping it alive for us. Auschwitz Kwesi, him and his wife, we sat down and broke bread together and talked about the Kemetic lifestyle. I know this Kemetic lifestyle should be in my life because it's always been perpetuated by God's finest. And to have the teaching of Auschwitz Kwesi and to have him right there in his own living room teaching you and giving you material and tapes to keep you on the path. How could I fall off the path? I could not fall off the path. I could not discredit it all in the name of taking on Ifa only. I must share in the glory of the greatness of the Kemetic teaching. I would be a fool if I turned away from it because we must open up ourselves for teachings from all schools of thought. And those that are prevailing in our life, those are the ones that we should give homage to. And I give homage to the Kemetic way of life, the MAAT teaching way of life today, reciprocity and truth and all the laws that MAAT gives us today. I give homage to that. And I pay homage to the fact that I'm proud of being able to go on the path of the enlightenment, of understanding that Kemetic teaching is a method that I can implement in my life and implement into my children's life and to speak into their life so that they will have a path and a way of life. We cannot excuse ourselves from the Hotep teaching, as most would say. Well, that's a Hotep group. Yes, we're a Hotep group, but we know why we're saying Hotep. We know the history of our forefather, and we know that our ancestors can be tapped into and brought back to stand beside us, to witness the testimony of the time when they were great, at a time when Egypt ruled the world, at a time when Egypt was the one that was out front, delivering all of the educational discipline, delivering all of the principles in life, delivering all of the religions that came up out of Africa. How could you turn your back on something as great as Egyptology? How could you not want to be raised up in Egypt, where you can become a priest or priestess and be raised up right there in the Nile Valley, where all of the teaching was given? This is the time now, ladies and gentlemen, for us to claim our stuff before someone goes over and claim that Egypt is not in Africa. Egypt is in Africa. Egypt is in Africa. Egypt is in Africa. Egypt is in Africa. Egypt, Egypt, Egypt. That's right. Egypt is still in Africa. So many people have tried to displace Egypt outside of Africa. So many people have tried to claim that Egypt was not a part of Africa, when in fact we know for a fact that Egypt is in Africa and will remain in Africa, and we will come as African Americans and take up a wailing for Africa, and we will come and intervene on behalf of Africa and the greatness that Egypt has brought us. They cannot bring down those walls. They cannot master those pyramids on a time when we and our families were going down and getting ready to make the transition. We built the pyramids at a time when we were leaving and transitioning out of Egypt. That was not in their dynasty and their greatness when they were just building the pyramids. It was when they were on their way out. Now we must come back and go to Africa and make Egypt great again. And we must claim the Kemetic teaching, and we must adhere to the Kemetic teaching. And we must be those Hotep people that some would like to put out of their misery. And we must sound the horn, and we must show the house of Jacob their transgression. We must cry loud and lift up our voice like a trumpet, that we're Kemetic, that we are aspiring to the Kemetic way of life, and that we're using all the tools that comes from Rana Nefer Amen, Ashwas Kwesi, Doc Ben, Dr. Carruthers, Dr. Hillary. We are using these tools. They belong to us. We're going to learn the Medunetter and learn how to read Kemetic writing, because that will be in its full scripts. We're not going to let anyone take control of our legacy, for our legacy. We're not going to let anyone take control of our heritage. We must stay in tune with ourselves, and we must let everyone know that wants a part in this Kemetic teaching, that it is there for the taking. It is ours. No man owns that teaching of Kemetic. We cannot let someone rob us of our ways. We cannot let someone come in and spew the words out of our mouths and not let us speak our language. We must learn to speak Kemetic language, the Medunetter. We must understand that it is the highest form of language. And in our understanding the language, we can understand our ways of life. We will have a secret society that no man can penetrate. We must gain our vocal voice back. We must gain our language back and have a voice in what goes on in Egypt and in Africa. And we must understand that for those of us who get so high and mighty on North America and saying that we're going to be here because this is where our ancestors were enslaved. So what is so good about being enslaved? We don't want to even remember that part of history. Let it go. It's nothing that will prosper us. Yes, we can look and see how far we came, but what are we going to do with this indigenous category. Is it going to give us land? Is it going to give us a way of life? No, we didn't practice a way of life with them. We didn't have an outline sketch of how we're to live our life, but we have one with the Kemetic Institute, and we must grab hold of it, take hold of it, and hold on to it tight and make sure we implement it in our lifestyle so that our children will have their legacy. Legacy. Thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen, for going on that little journey with me, because I have to let people know I'm not hiding my Kemetic lifestyle. I am revealing it out front, and I am making it known that under no circumstances would I ever suppress my Kemetic lifestyle as a priestess. Uh, the Kemetic lifestyle as a priestess in my life, I will go on to implement things from the Kemetic lifestyle, even though I was taken through the Yoruba. They are quite the same with slight differences, but I cater more to the Kemetic way of life because it is a path, there is a way of studying, it's a way of showing others, and I can appreciate that, and I hope you do too. Thank you so very much for going with me on this little journey, and to tell women, yes, you can get in a study. Yes, there are plenty of trainings out there to teach you about the Kemetic way of lifestyle. And I'm going to be tapping in more to the way of lifestyle, the way of perpetuating, preparing foods in the natural way and the raw way and the vegetation way. So I too have to get back into the groove of the Kemetic way. I know I perpetuate that on my blog talk station, but I have not done a lot to talk about it other than some of my old sessions have been on the Kemetic lifestyle and the teaching. So go out and take a listen to them, and you'll see that I'm on a path for Kemetic as well. Thank you very much, and do have a pleasant day. Oh, dabo, baba booey to you.